This is not just another offseason. This is a turning point. The Los Angeles Chargers are quietly building something serious. Behind the scenes, moves are being made, strategies are shifting, and now, a new rumor is shaking things up. Could the Chargers be preparing to make a major trade for a tight end? The kind of move that could take this offense to the next level? If you're a Chargers fan, you need to hear this right now. Chargers offseason just got more interesting. The 2025 offseason has already been a wild ride for the Los Angeles Chargers. After a smart draft and solid free agent signings, things looked pretty complete. But now, there's new buzz, and it's coming from a familiar direction, the tight end position. Under new head coach Jim Harbaugh, things have changed quickly. He's brought in energy, discipline, and a clear vision. And if you know Harbaugh, you know this. His system leans heavily on tight ends. They're not just extra blockers or safety nets. In his offense, tight ends are weapons. Right now, the Chargers do have some talent at that position. But let's be honest, the unit still has room to grow. Injuries slowed things down last season, and the consistency just wasn't there. If the Chargers want to become a top-tier offense, the tight end group needs to level up. And now, rumors are heating up. Names like Jonnu Smith and even Kyle Pitts are floating around. Yes, that Kyle Pitts, the former top 5 pick with game-changing ability. No, nothing is confirmed yet. But these whispers matter. Because if the Chargers are even thinking about this kind of move, it shows one thing clearly. This team is not messing around. Before we dive into the latest on this possible trade, make sure you're locked in. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and smash that bell icon so you never miss a major Chargers update. This offseason is moving fast, and you don't want to be the last to know. All right, let's get into the latest. A Harbaugh-led vision. Looking at how this roster has taken shape, you can see the Harbaugh effect. The Chargers went from a 5-win season to an 11-win turnaround almost overnight. That's not luck, that's leadership, that's culture. And that's what happens when a coach builds a team the right way. Now, it's time to sharpen the edges. The foundation is there. The identity is forming. The missing piece? Maybe it's a dynamic tight end. General Manager Joe Hortiz has done an impressive job identifying weaknesses and turning them into strengths. This could be his next move, and if it happens, it might be the final step toward making the Chargers not just a playoff team, but a serious contender. Tight end depth is quietly becoming a strength in LA. When Will Dissly was pushed into a bigger role last season, he didn't flinch. He stepped up and handled the pressure with professionalism and grit. But here's the key. This year, he's no longer just filling in. The Chargers have put him in a position to thrive. Dissly isn't just a blocker anymore. He's now recognized as a reliable second option in the passing game, and with 2 years left on his deal and only 28 years old, there's a strong chance he'll remain a core piece of this offense for seasons to come. The Chargers value players like Dissly, gritty, versatile, and dependable. He might not grab headlines every Sunday, but he does all the little things right. And that's exactly the kind of tight end Jim Harbaugh builds around, the rookie wildcard, Oronde Gadsden II. Now, here's where things get exciting. Oronde Gadsden II is the name that has fans buzzing. This kid isn't just another prospect. He's a potential game changer. Drafted out of Syracuse, Gadsden brings something the Chargers have been craving at tight end, true receiving explosiveness. Back-to-back seasons with nearly 1,000 yards at the college level? That's not normal for a tight end. He's a strong route runner. He lines up all over the field, especially in the slot, and he creates mismatches against both linebackers and defensive backs. The team knows what they are doing with him. Gadsden may not be an instant star, but he could absolutely be a weapon in the near future. And don't be surprised if he sees more action in his rookie season than expected. He's got the traits, the build, and the mindset to make an impact sooner rather than later. A 4-deep tight end group? Don't rule it out. Some people say the Chargers are already set at tight end. They've got Conklin, they've got Dissly, now they've added Gadsden. That's 3, right? Well, not so fast. In a Harbaugh-style offense, tight ends are more than just extras. They're key pillars. You need blockers, you need pass catchers, you need backups who can rotate in and keep the offense balanced and unpredictable. Carrying 4 tight ends isn't just possible, it's practical. So while the current room looks solid, there's a growing sense that the Chargers may not be done yet. They might still be exploring options to add even more firepower. And that leads us to the latest buzz around a possible trade. Jonnu Smith. A name to watch. Rumors are swirling about Jonnu Smith being on the trade block. The Dolphins reportedly may be shopping him, and naturally, the Chargers' name has come up in speculation. Smith brings a dynamic skill set, good hands, sharp athleticism, and the ability to stretch the field after the catch. He's the kind of tight end who can make something happen out of nothing. If the Chargers are truly looking to round out their group with a fourth option, Smith would fit the bill. It's not confirmed, it's not guaranteed, but it's a situation worth keeping a close eye on, especially if Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz see a chance to make this offense even harder to stop. The Jonnu Smith conversation. Tempting, but is it the right move? The Chargers' tight end group is starting to take shape, but one name continues to swirl in trade rumors: Jonnu Smith. On the surface, it's easy to see the appeal. Smith has had a quiet resurgence in recent seasons. After an up-and-down stint in New England, he found a rhythm late in his time with Atlanta and carried that momentum into a breakout year in Miami. Nearly 900 yards and 8 touchdowns in one season? That's no fluke. He became a legit offensive weapon. He's got the tools, speed, agility, and the kind of athleticism that makes defenses nervous. For a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who thrives with versatile targets downfield, Smith would fit right into the offensive blueprint. He's quick enough to create separation and big enough to muscle through coverage, something any team could use, especially the Chargers. But while Smith's game is attractive, there's another side to the story. The hidden cost. Behind the highlight reels, Jonnu Smith is heading into a contract year, and while his current deal is relatively team-friendly, that's unlikely to last. He's 30 years old, playing arguably the best football of his career, and knows his value. If a team trades for him now, they'll get him for a season at a decent price, but they'll also have to think long and hard about a new deal almost immediately. That could mean locking in a multi-year extension in the $6 million per year range, if not more. For a Chargers front office that just added Tyler Conklin on a one-year deal and already has promising pieces like Will Dissly and Oronde Gadsden II, that's a heavy commitment. Do you go all in for a short-term spark or stay the course with the talent you've already built? Should the Chargers make a move? This is where things get tricky. If Miami is truly looking to deal Smith, the asking price could be as low as a 5th or 6th round pick. That's a bargain on paper. But the Chargers have to weigh more than the trade cost. They need to think about chemistry, cap space, and long-term roster construction. Smith's presence would likely bump someone off the depth chart, and that someone could be a young talent like Gadsden who needs the reps to develop. Bringing in a veteran with expectations for targets could shift the balance of the offense. Is that worth it for what might only be a one-year rental? There's also the matter of the Chargers' offensive identity under Jim Harbaugh. His system relies on smart, tough, well-rounded tight ends. Smith has shown flashes of being that guy, but does he align with what Harbaugh and GM Joe Hortiz are trying to build? The Kyle Pitts distraction. And now, like clockwork, the annual Kyle Pitts rumor mill begins to turn. It seems like every offseason there's some whisper about Pitts being on the move, and every time the Chargers get mentioned. Let's be honest, Pitts is a unique talent, but this isn't fantasy football. The cost, both in draft capital and future contracts, would be sky high. That's just not the move Los Angeles needs right now. The Chargers are building something sustainable, a well-rounded, physical roster that can compete for years to come. While star power is always enticing, it has to make sense within the broader plan. And for now, a blockbuster move like Pitts doesn't fit. Kyle Pitts to the Chargers? A dream worth the risk? There's a name echoing loudly through the Chargers fan base right now: Kyle Pitts. The buzz is impossible to ignore. When a player with his physical traits becomes even remotely available, it turns heads. But this isn't just any player. This is a 6 feet 6 inches, 245-pound matchup nightmare who clocked a 4.44 40. That's wide receiver speed in a tight end's frame. That's rare. So of course, when fans imagine Pitts catching passes from Justin Herbert, it sparks a wave of excitement. The idea of pairing one of the league's most gifted quarterbacks with a tight end built like a created player in Madden? That's the kind of thought that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. But fantasy aside, what's the real story? Is Kyle Pitts truly worth the hype for the Chargers? A star that hasn't fully shined. Let's be honest, Pitts hasn't lived up to his draft day billing. After a jaw-dropping rookie year with over 1,000 yards, expectations skyrocketed. Since then, though, his production has dipped. Last season, about 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not bad, but not elite either, especially for someone making $10 million. Compare that to a value signing like Tyler Conklin, and the difference in cost versus performance becomes hard to ignore. That's not to say Pitts isn't capable. He's got every tool in the box: elite speed, towering height, great hands, and excellent route running. But in Atlanta, all of that talent hasn't quite clicked. Some point to the instability at quarterback, some to the coaching system, and others to injury setbacks. Whatever the cause, the fact remains: he hasn't become the superstar many projected. Why the Chargers might still be tempted. The thought of placing Pitts in an offense led by Herbert is, in a word, tempting. He's never had a quarterback of that caliber. The Chargers, especially under a new coaching regime that values versatile tight ends, could be the perfect environment for a resurgence. But here's the kicker. There's risk. Adding Pitts isn't just about trading a draft pick. It's about committing to a large contract extension soon after. He's playing on his 5th-year option, which means he's due $10 million this year, and then, what? You'll likely have to pay top-tier money to keep him. And in today's NFL, that means possibly $18 to $20 million per year for a tight end who hasn't produced at a top-tier level in years. That's a big leap of faith, even for a player with his raw ability. What would it cost? According to league chatter, the Falcons are asking for a day 2 pick, either a second or third rounder. For the Chargers, a second rounder is already a non-starter. That leaves a third, which is still steep considering the contract situation, inconsistency, and long-term gamble. And here's where things get complicated. The Chargers are in a rebuilding phase with a clear vision: build through the draft, be smart with money, and develop young talent. Trading a valuable pick and absorbing a huge contract doesn't necessarily fit that plan, not unless the front office truly believes Kyle Pitts is the missing piece. That belief has to go deeper than highlight reels. It has to be about fit, culture, and confidence that Pitts can become a true difference maker in Los Angeles, not just a big name. Should the Chargers take the gamble on Kyle Pitts? Here's the real question that's dividing Chargers fans. How much is Kyle Pitts truly worth? Not in a fantasy football dream, not in a college highlight reel, but right now, as a 25-year-old tight end with immense potential, inconsistent results, and a contract situation that could make any front office nervous. Let's break it down. Pitts is finishing out his rookie deal and carries a price tag of around $10 million for this season. That's a hefty number when you consider his last couple of years haven't matched his sky-high potential. In terms of raw production, you could argue he's been in the same ballpark as tight ends making less than half that amount. So where's the line? Where does potential outweigh reality? What would you pay for potential? If the Chargers want to make a move, it has to be smart. The most logical approach? A prove-it extension. Something short-term, reasonable, and incentive-based. Maybe $6 to $7 million a year. That gives Pitts a shot to revive his career while giving the Bolts financial flexibility. But let's not kid ourselves. There's a strong chance that Pitts, given his unique skill set and the hype still attached to his name, gets $10 to $12 million per year on the open market. Some team will roll the dice. Should that team be the Chargers? That depends on two things: the trade cost and whether this coaching staff truly believes they can turn him into what he was always meant to be. What would it take to get him? The Falcons reportedly want a day 2 pick, which means a second or third rounder. A second? Not happening. Not with this front office, not in this stage of the Chargers' rebuild. But a third rounder plus something back, say a 5th-round pick, that's a conversation worth having. The more you think about it, the more it comes down to fit, not just financially, but systemically. That's where the Chargers start to look like a truly unique opportunity. Why the Chargers make the most sense? Over the past year, the Chargers have quietly become one of the best teams in the league at reviving careers. Look at what's happened with guys like J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Even after injuries and setbacks, they've found new energy in L.A. On the defensive side, players like Elijah Molden, Poona Ford, and Christian Fulton saw a boost in performance under this coaching staff. This isn't luck. This is a pattern, a culture shift, a team that knows how to give players the tools and the coaching to rediscover themselves. If there's one franchise position to unlock Kyle Pitts, it's this one. The environment is right, the leadership is right, and Justin Herbert is exactly the type of quarterback who could elevate a weapon like Pitts into the elite tier. A perfect fit for Jim Harbaugh's vision? Let's not forget who's running the show now, Jim Harbaugh, a coach known for maximizing the tight end position. He's coached physical, versatile, dominant tight ends at both the college and pro levels. He knows how to design an offense that creates mismatches with size, speed, and athleticism, exactly what Kyle Pitts brings to the table. And Pitts is still just 25 years old. His best football could still be ahead of him, in the right hands. So when you line it all up, the upside, the coaching, the quarterback, the system, there's a case to be made. If the price is right, and if the commitment isn't too deep, the Chargers might just be the perfect place for Kyle Pitts to rewrite his story. The Kyle Pitts gamble. Smart move or risky reach for the Chargers? Let's put all the talk on the table. When you watch Kyle Pitts on film, when you consider the size, the speed, the catch radius, you can't help but ask yourself, what if he lands in the right place? What if a franchise actually knows how to unlock the full potential of this rare athlete? And if that place is going to be anywhere, why shouldn't it be Los Angeles? The talent is there. So what's missing? Look, Kyle Pitts hasn't lived up to expectations. Not yet. He's been buried in an offense that didn't know how to use him. But let's not pretend the skill set just vanished. He's still 6 feet 6 inches, fluid, and just 25 years old. That kind of upside doesn't come around often, especially at a position as tough to master as tight end. And yes, tight ends usually need time. They rarely break out instantly. The ones who hit early are the outliers. Most take a few years to develop, especially in complicated NFL systems. Pitts might simply be a guy who needs a second chance in the right system. And if the Chargers are looking at their tight end room thinking, we're solid, but we can be great, then Kyle Pitts is the name worth circling. A room with space to grow. Right now, the Chargers' tight end room has talent. Tyler Conklin brings experience and toughness, but he's 30. He's not your future. He's a one-year option, a stabilizer. Adding a dynamic piece like Pitts gives you something different. You don't have to throw him in as TE1 immediately. He can rotate in, learn, and build confidence. And when the time is right, watch out. Because Pitts in the right offense could be a nightmare matchup for any defense. What would it take? Let's talk reality. The Falcons aren't getting a second-round pick for him. That's too rich. But a fourth-rounder? That feels realistic. Maybe a third if the Chargers get some picks in return. Fine. But even just a clean fourth-round deal? That's a move you make if you're the Bolts. On the money side, if the Chargers offered him $10 million for this year, with a follow-up deal around $7 to $8 million annually for 1 to 2 years, it gives both sides flexibility. He gets a shot to prove himself without being locked down. And the Chargers protect themselves if it doesn't pan out. It's a fair, forward-thinking move. Betting on the environment. You've seen what this franchise can do with overlooked or underperforming talent. It's not hype, it's track record. The Chargers have turned around careers on both sides of the ball. Veterans have come in, reset, and played some of the best football of their lives. That's because the culture here has shifted. The coaching is elite. The game plans are smart. The quarterback play? Arguably top 5 in the league. And now you've got a leader in Jim Harbaugh who understands how to elevate tough, physical, athletic tight ends. It's in his coaching DNA. This isn't just a move for today, it's a long-term play. A calculated risk that could yield a serious reward. The verdict? So yes, despite the past numbers, despite